everyone! So here at OwlCrate, we absolutely love fall, so we wanted to do a fall-inspired book tag.
So it seems like everyone has been doing the Finally Fall book tag, and that was created by Tall Tales. We'll leave a link to her channel down below, and we just thought that the questions seemed really unique and fun, so we're excited to do this tag for you guys.
Alright, so the first question is, in fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting.
So for this one, I chose Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, particularly the setting of the city that they live in called Ketterdam. I thought that her descriptions of kind of just like how dank and dark and grimy it was were really perfect. Made it really easy to visualize where the characters are roaming around and getting up to no good.
Yeah, she makes a really good atmosphere in that.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a place I'd want to visit, but it was cool to read about.
Cool. And I picked American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This book, well, the setting is America, and the way that Neil Gaiman writes the setting in this book is so interesting. It's almost like America is a character. It's really cool. This book is really good, and if you haven't read it yet, I definitely recommend it.
Because it's like a road trip book, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of in like with different like kind of forgotten gods from other places, and yeah, you just visit all sorts of places in America, and it's very, very well done. The second question is, nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with heavy topics like loss or grief.
So for this one, I decided to go with We Are the Ants by Shawn Hutchinson, because I just think it's such a beautiful story. It's really well written, but it does deal with things like suicide and grief and bullying and abuse and all sorts of heavy topics, but I think it's done in a really kind way, and yeah, this is one of my favorite books of all time, and I encourage everyone to read it. Yes.
For this one, I'm gonna pick More Than This by Patrick Ness. This is probably one of my favorite Patrick Ness novels. And it's super well done, but it is quite heavy. At the I think in the first 3 pages, our main character actually dies. So yeah, if you haven't read this one yet, I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful book. And really, it kind of just reveals itself slowly. You don't really know what's going on for a lot of it, but packs a punch.
And it is kind of like a fantasy sci-fi kind of thing, and it actually has, oddly enough, one of the best villains I've ever read in my life.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
But yeah, it was really, really good.
Yep. Yep. Oh, Patrick.
Okay, the third question is, fall is back to school season. Share a non-fiction book that taught you something new.
So most of the non-fiction books that I tend to read have to do with business and like self-improvement and things like that. And one that just kind of changed my way of thinking was Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is the author of Eat, Pray, Love, but this is a non-fiction book all about how she views creativity and like where ideas come from. And I just never thought of ideas in this format. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like, you know that feeling when you just, like, it comes out of nowhere and you just have this idea for a new project or business or art piece or anything like that. She kind of views it almost like that it's this like source of energy that is actually very tangible, and it comes to you, and if you ignore it, it's going to go to someone else. And that's kind of what happens when, let's say you have an idea and you don't act on it, and then 2 years later all of a sudden someone has launched this project that you thought of. It's kind of, I don't know, it's just like really interesting. It kind of sounds hokey, but I just really enjoyed reading it, and yeah, it just made me think about my own creativity in a new way.
Sounds good.
And it's beautiful.
And it's pretty. So my book for this is kind of weird. It's very well loved, and that is The Complete Book of Running from Runner's World. This kind of popped to mind when I read this question because back when I did a lot of running, this was like my Bible. Like, I referenced this book constantly, and it's written in a way that's it's not like a textbook. Like, it's written kind of in a fun way, and I think if you're a runner, you get a lot from this. I definitely did, and I still, although I don't run anymore, I still hold this book dear to my heart because it was super useful to me.
Awesome.
So, non-fiction.
And Corey eventually did like marathons and stuff, so
yeah, it's true. So,
if you want to get into running, maybe try this.
So this, and this definitely helped with that.
Yeah.
So it has like nutrition and stretching and first aid and all sorts of stuff in here, so.
Cool. Yes. I love it. You're just like, but that's just like an honest pick.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you did that.
question is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group that you'd like to be a part of.
No one's going to be surprised by this. Say it with me, folks. The Raven Boys. I've just never experienced a friend group like the one in this series. So far, nothing has ever even come close since I've read it. They just feel like real people to me, and I love every single one of them very dearly, and I would just love nothing more than to go on adventures with them.
And even like Blue's family.
Yeah, that too. That too.
It's great.
Yeah. Aww,
so I agree, like that was my first instinct to pick as well, but I was like, what else could I pick? And I'm gonna put an image on the screen, but I thought of the physical kids from The Magicians. So it's like definitely like different. They're kind of like the outcasts of the school they go to, this magical college. But they just seem like they have a lot of fun. Like they're definitely kind of like party animals, but they go on all sorts of like adventures, and it's just so cool and atmospheric, and I would like to go there as well.
That does sound fun.
Yeah. Question 5 is, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall colored spines. Alright, so we're gonna go to Corey's bookshelf and find the books.
Yes, we'll be back in 1, 2, 3. Ta-da!
So we just kind of destroyed Corey's bookshelf. But yeah,
pretty. How pretty.
How pretty. Okay. Question 6 is, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story.
So I had a little bit of trouble with this one, but what I decided to go with is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it so many times. It's probably the first YA book I ever bought, and I vividly remember getting it. But in this book, I'm sure most of you are aware of what it is, but essentially our main character Charlie is writing letters to someone. You don't ever find out who he's writing to, but in these letters he's just sharing stories of his experiences in high school and his friend group and all of the like happy and hard times that he goes through, and it's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
So good.
Yes. So that is my pick for this one.
And now I picked one that's fairly obvious if you've read this book, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This book is definitely is chronicling a story told by Quoth, and it's super good. But you kind of flash back to this pub where he's telling the story intermittently throughout the story, so you can see the future kind of. It's really, really good. If you've read this, you know this is kind of a universally loved fantasy book, and it's excellent, and I
really want to try it, but I'm so intimidated by the size of it.
It's really good, and I think a lot of people say that it is intimidating because it's so big, but it's so, once you get into it, it's so like fast-paced. Yeah, very good. Question 7 is, the nights are getting darker. Share a dark and creepy read.
So immediately what came to my mind is Horns by Joe Hill. If you didn't know, Joe Hill is actually Stephen King's son, but I actually find him even more terrifying than his father. Reading Horns was just like a visceral experience for me that I will never forget. The villain in Horns is just so psychotic and terrifying, and I don't know. I don't even really know how to describe this book.
It's really weird, but it's like scary.
Yes. Yeah, it's just like the main character wakes up and he can all of a sudden hear everybody's like most darkest thoughts, which is pretty messed up. And then he's also recently lost his girlfriend who was murdered, and he's kind of like a suspect, so he's dealing with that. And it's scary. It's a good book for October. The movie adaptation is fun as well, but definitely read the book first. Definitely read the book first.
Very different.
Yes, but good.
Cool. Oh wait, I have to answer. Cool. So mine is actually a manga that I just read a couple days ago, and that is Death Note. This is the black edition, so this is like volumes 1 and 2 of the manga series.
Nice.
And this is just like very creepy. So it's basically about this boy who finds a notebook, and if he writes names in it, those people will die. And it gets into like, it's really complicated. There's all sorts of rules to this notebook. But unlike you would think, this boy actually takes it upon himself to start killing off the world's evilest people. So he doesn't want, he uses it a lot, and it's very, very freaky. And there's like a god of death in here, and it's It's so well done. It's definitely the best manga I have ever read, so I'm excited to read more of these. It's really good.
Yeah, I want to read that too.
Question 8 is, the days are getting colder. Name a short and heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day.
This was also challenging because I realized that most of my short books are very, very sad. I really like sad books, but I found one, which I haven't admittedly read in years, but I will never get rid of it. It's called Jonathon Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach, and it is truly a story of a seagull named Jonathon Livingston who just dreams of flying higher and higher and higher, and all of the other seagulls in his flock tell him it can't be done, and it's kind of just a story of pushing yourself and your boundaries. And yeah, and I just remember feeling like really, really good after I finished it. So, yes.
I'm guessing that's where the band got their name from.
Yeah, maybe. Probably.
It'd be weird if there was 2 of those.
Yeah.
Cool. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's cute, and it's got like weird
Pictures of seagulls.
weird pictures of seagulls, black and white seagull photography all throughout it. But it's kind of just
Why not?
endearing, okay, you guys? It's endearing.
For this, I'm gonna pick Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by David Levithan and Rachel Cohn. I read this a couple of years ago, and it's a Christmas story, but it's just so sweet. It's just like a fun contemporary book that doesn't read into too much, but it's a really good holiday read. Maybe not for October, but if you want. But I really enjoyed reading this, and I definitely want to pick up the sequel as well.
Every year I tell myself that I'm gonna read this book, and I don't. I need to, because it sounds cute.
Yeah, it's just adorable.
I even bought this book for my grandma, and I haven't read it.
That's so cute.
I thought
Did she read it?
Probably. I thought she'd like it, so, but I need to read it.
Oh, it's good.
Yes, goal.
Cool. Question 9 is, fall returns every year. Name
Thank
an
God.
old favorite that you'd like to return to soon.
This one is really easy for me, and that is The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner. I've actually only read this once, and it was way back in actually 2015 when I was reading an advanced copy of it, and I later chose it to be in an OwlCrate box. It's one of my favorite books of all time, but I desperately want to reread it. I think that I would appreciate it even more the second time around, and it's just beautiful. It's just about this group of friends who are kind of outcasts and them growing up in their small southern town, and it's just a good book about friendship, and it's lovely. It's just lovely.
It's really good.
If you haven't read it yet, please do.
Beautiful.
Yes. Precious.
Now, on a completely different note, I want to reread Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. It's no secret I love Brandon Sanderson. This is actually the first book of his I ever read. It was kind of a weird place to start, but I picked this up because it was on sale at Chapters, and I read it, and I loved it, and that's where the obsession began. And I haven't reread it since, but it's fun. It's kind of about a future Chicago where the superheroes are actually have decided to run the place, so they're kind of like dictators, and it's really good. It's super fun, very sassy, and yeah, it's a kind of like an anti-superhero. Yeah, it's really good, and I would love to reread it because I've reread a lot of his books, but not this one.
Come on, get on it.
Get on it. All right, question 10 is, fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessory.
So other than like warm socks, I always read with my beautiful Raven Boys blanket, which was given to me for my birthday last year from my friend Evie at Evie Bookish, and it's hard to show it here, but it's just a gorgeous Raven Boys. Well, Raven King, technically.
You can cozy up with it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I punched you. So I always read with this, whether it's summer or fall.
I actually have a blanket from Evie that I use too, but it's a Crooked Kingdom one that's very similar to the same idea, and it's soft and cozy.
Who gave you that blanket?
Karina gave me it.
Someone awesome.
And it's so nice. The other thing that came to mind was, especially when it gets a little bit colder, is I don't know if it's an accessory, but we're gonna count it, is hot chocolate.
Yes.
Hot chocolate's really good for some reading, so we're counting that as an accessory as well.
Bye.
Bye. Nap time.
Alright guys, so that was the Finally Fall book tag. It was so much fun answering these questions. We highly suggest that you do this tag as well, and let us know if you do.
As per usual, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Happy reading, and thanks for being awesome. Bye! Ooh.